Billy. Right now. It's Billy. Yo, 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 yo. What up, what up, what up? How we doing, everybody? It is how Billy sees it. It is June 5th. Sheba, let me know if you can hear me, if the sound is good. I got a new computer about 2 weeks ago, and we had some issues last week. And, we're still working out some big kinks and stuff here. But things are moving along well, and I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have a great guest. I'm going to introduce y'all to him in a minute. But first, man, yeah, last week was nutty, yo. I actually caught a bug, one of this, like a little virus that was going around, and I was throwing up a lot of bathroom stuff, and lost like 15 pounds out there, yo. It was, lost all the energy. It hit hard for like one day. It was really rough, and then lingered a little bit. But by now I'm feeling a lot better. My appetite's back. Everybody stay healthy out there, all right? And Sheba says sound is good. I'm gonna introduce you to my guy. This is someone is a friend of mine and a Brooklyn Tech alum, a Stony Brook alum, a colleague, and someone I have a great deal of respect for. And I'm excited for this. So let's bring him in. His name is Curt Hylton. Yeah, what up?
Pleasure to be here, my friend. Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh man, I'm glad you could be here. I appreciate it, Curt. Curt, usually I jump right in and then I allow the conversation to go from there. So I want to jump right in with, what is a Curt's call? What is a Curt call, and why? How did it start, and why do you do them?
What it is, it just kind of started in this era of social media and hashtagging. It was just my way of, it was based on my name, obviously, and the fact that I used to be a sports broadcaster. Mm-hmm. Play-by-play, you calling games. So I figure I just call it as I see it, like you do on certain issues.
I appreciate that, man. That's much needed, yo. Yeah, you post a lot, and when I try to think about how you post and the kinds of calls when you do the Curt calls, I see there's a lot of like love. I put in these categories like love, masculinity, community. Why do you post so much about kindness?
Because, being a stroke survivor, my backstory, but I've been exposed now more so than ever during the course of my recovery about the need to be kindness and be empathetic about people's plight. These are people, I'm meeting people now that I would never have met before my health issue.
Yeah. But you're telling people, like, you're bringing people along with the journey, it feels like.
That was my intention, yes.
That's what's up. And a couple of days ago, 4 days ago, you posted, I have a responsibility to myself and others. And I what was that? What are you trying to get across there?
Okay, that a lot of times when I post stuff like that, it's kind of seemingly random utterances, but it's usually triggered by something I've read from someone. Mm-hmm. I was in the midst of trying to adjust somebody's compass on LGBTQ issues. I'm not a member of that community, but it was a good friend of mine who was taking a very seemingly hateful stance on the old Target store display stuff. And I just think his information was very faulty. So I was like, I got to speak up on it because they're just people trying to be in the pursuit of the proverbial happiness.
That's right. Like everyone,
Exactly.
People need to be reminded of that, Like everyone is literally the same. You're seeing these different expressions. They show up in different ways. There are norms that are unique for them and you.
Yep.
And that it's okay,
And I said to him, as a black man who's been, we know our history of oppression and suppression, so we should be more understanding.
Absolutely.
And the fact we know A lot of stuff that was done in terms of our sexual outlook on things came via slave trade and so forth. We carry a lot of baggage, so we got to understand stuff.
There's stuff to unlearn. We
Exactly.
carry a lot of ideas and things that were forced.
Tell
It's
me about it. I'm Jamaican born and raised, so
mhm,
it's very inherent.
yeah, for
So I've
sure.
had to do a lot of personal exploration in that stuff. But I
Yeah,
do credit having worked in higher ed for 25 years for giving me the access and opportunity to meet people who help me educate myself.
I love that. That's key that you said that because I think sometimes it's one of those things that requires exposure. I mean, you mentioned the
Absolutely.
I'm from Guadeloupe. We're both from the Caribbean. There's
Yep.
a masculine sort of homophobic thing that is the
Yep.
norm. And when you're a bunch of people who just agree with that, who are all sort of identified that way, and no one has the ability to challenge it or to ask a deeper question, then you're just stuck there, and everyone's sort of repeating the same thing. But for me, it was interesting to come to DC and to meet people who happen to be gay, who happen to be bi, who happen to be this, but they are so much more than that. It's not the first attribute or anything. It's just what
Right.
they are.
It's
And that
almost incidental when things are said and done.
it's complete. It's as incidental as the rest of it. So to me, this goes into the identity thing too, because I
Yep.
imagine sometimes you try to connect it to slavery, but people don't see, like, people have their identities and they don't see that the things they dislike is also another identity, and it's like
Exactly.
the same.
I, I can paraphrase the great Bob Marley and said, until something like that is of no more significance than the color of a man's eyes.
Right, right, right. Yeah, Kurt, you a sports guy, man, right?
Big time. Yep.
Um, what's like your favorite like football memory when you were a player?
My favorite memory as a player, just, it's so hard, man. I think I enjoyed being around my teammates, but I was a linebacker, so I love getting busy in the trenches.
You.
Yep, just talking to them big old boys, talking crap.
That's what's up. Would you play middle
Yep.
or outside or?
Yes, sir, Miss. Yes, sir. The great Jack Lambert was the one who inspired me. Then my role model was Mike Singletary.
Mike, oh my gosh, yeah. Those are the tough days of football, man. That's a different game back then.
Absolutely.
Those guys, man.
I'm an old man. What can I say?
I love it, man. Obviously, what do you think about these changes to the game? Like, people, this kind of, some of the changes in the world have been reflected in
Yes.
everything, including in the game of football. And so, as an old guy who has a Mike Singletary mindset, do you view football with a little bit of nostalgia? Like, oh, things have changed in a bad way, or what? What do you think?
No, honestly, I'm all for player safety. Guys my age tend to be looking at things. The game is soft now. I'm like, look, I've been around guys like you. I covered your career and other guys, your peers.
Hmm.
I'm like, the game evolves, man. I lived in the era of 3-a-day practices, and
Yep,
when
I remember
coach
those.
when coach didn't like the way practice was going, he might turn over the table with all the water cups on
Yep.
it. Be like, you bastards don't deserve water.
Yep.
Then came along Corey Stringer,
Hmm. Hmm.
a game changer.
Yep.
We can't go back to that.
You can't. It's
That
over.
doesn't make you soft.
It doesn't, and
It's just different.
it's
It's
different.
evolution.
It's an
Adaptation.
evolution. It's at the end of the day, you have to realize that this nostalgia is for a game. You're
Right.
talking about a game, and it's a pretty rough, vicious game. And as much as I love the game, and I love it, it's also what you have now is it's evolved to include more knowledge about the humans, the players, the people, right?
Absolutely. I'm sorry I'm moving around.
You're good. You're good.
Adjust my chair.
No sweat, man. No sweat. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just think I think even in here you're seeing it's about understanding that there's humans involved. There's more complexity to it. They're not just like these pieces that you
Absolutely.
throw. Yeah.
Well, let me just say something to you that might resonate with some people out there. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, diehard.
Hmm.
So think about Mike Webster, the great center of the Steelers of the 70s with Terry Bradshaw. Here's a guy who won four Super Bowls, ended up with dementia, homeless, living under a bridge,
Mm.
ended up dying in poverty. That's no way for one of the game's Hall of Fame greats to end up, you know?
Right. And it indicates something as a problem. It indicates something that the league, this super wealthy league, by the way.
Right.
Um,
And the other part of it is to the current generation of players, and I'm not just talking about now, but the younger guys never think they're going to get older. So they're never really supportive of contributions to taking care of older people.
correct. Yeah.
So constant education is key
A
because
const-
before you know it, it happens to you.
we need, and that's true in football, and it's true across the board. We need this constant
Every,
understanding that everything is linked. We're all linked. Everyone here, and in fact, through time, we're linked. You know what I mean? We're linked. We stand on the shoulders of the giants who came before us, who
no
built
question.
things. You know, and
Let's look at Jamie Foxx at 55 years old, roughly my age, who seemingly fits, who, if it appears to be, it's not really been officially commented on, confirmed on by him. It's of all things it seems he had a stroke. You know, it can happen to anyone.
it can.
There's so many hidden figures. I can go through a lengthy list of people who have had strokes at relatively young ages,
Yeah.
and people don't necessarily know about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you do the work you do, man. Do you ever find yourself? Does it seem to you that you're talking sometimes when you create stuff? You're talking to a younger version of yourself, or that
I am,
you are okay,
absolutely,
okay,
because a lot of things my father used to teach me, but I understood it on a comprehensive level, but not necessarily on a emotional level.
yep, yep, and that's key. That's key, and it's one of those things. Experience brings you there, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. What does if I say the word love, Kurt? What does love mean to you generally? I want to pull us down this path.
Empathy and understanding, and genuine caring,
Mm,
humility.
mm, I love it. Okay, and that's what
Willingness to put them before yourself.
yes, and I've seen you interact with your lovely wife. You two are in love.
No doubts.
You guys have that, and one of the things I see when I talk to younger dudes, and I'm 40. I can't believe I'm in this space where I'm talking about myself like the young folk.
it,
I be talking to the young folks sometimes.
it happens quick, doesn't it?
It happens real quick, bro. But just even like 5 years younger than me, 35
Yep.
or down to 30, like there's a sense that love is not a thing, that it's made up, and there's no that relationships are all kind of cursed, and they're all the point isn't like it's that Hallmark stuff is all nonsense, and young people are kind of resigned to relationships as an extension of like capitalism. Like it's just more like clout and getting social climbing. This is what dudes will say to me as they talk about they're not looking for love, and women too. The young
Right, right.
is
It's
that
been made that.
who's say that
When
again?
it's been made to be that.
It's been
When you
made.
think about, if you go back to the 60s when my parents were young, you could raise a family in the United States on an income of like $8,000 a year. The man could go to work every
What?
day and leave his wife to take care of the kids. Not that that was necessarily right, but that's the way things were.
But you could do
You could
that.
do one income families were fine, depending on your trade or line of work.
Yeah.
Now you're up there looking at marriage to your point, as like strategic partnerships.
It almost has to evolve with the broader evolution of everything else, where everything, and it's unfortunate, if maybe a feature of capitalism where everyone is now trying to collect assets, and everyone is their own marketer on Instagram and doing
Absolutely.
deals and such, and but it's seeped into our relationships now, and it's even seeped into our relationships where even there's whole industries of people who are, I think, trying to like profit from making us hate each other, making the men, oh, these
Yep.
women, blah, 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 and the women have their own versions of this too.
Let me tell you something. If you don't want to believe love is real, go up there, have a health crisis. When your wife has to take care of you, man, you got to have a wife that's willing to cut your toenails or wipe your ass if necessary.
Yeah, man.
That shit is real, son.
That shit is real. I agree. I
I'm
fuck
sorry
with you.
to introduce profanity, but I gotta keep it a buck.
Yo, keep it a buck, man. I actually just this past week I was super sick. I'm lucky enough in my 40 years, man. I'm generally of very good health, but I got this virus. I was throwing up and diarrhea, vomit, all at this. It was just a mess, and clean. And she was stepped up and was like, so it was so. I told her to leave it and let me just fix it up, and she was awesome.
That
You
is
know,
love, my friend. I've seen you two interact as well. It's definitely there.
I appreciate it, man. I know it's there. I feel that for real, and it's
Yep.
interesting to see that people are experiencing things really differently, and going through a different experience.
Yeah, I was never in poor health before I had a stroke. My stroke was caused by a random blood clot in my brain, which they've never really been able to pinpoint the cause of. So that's kind of troubling sometimes, but you got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. In fact, if you could, man, if I gave you the floor for like whatever 2 to 5 minutes, man, just a summary of, tell us a bit about your story and how, if you can, if you will, with Christina, how she was there for you on your honeymoon.
Yeah, it wasn't even our honeymoon. We hadn't got married yet. We were engaged. And I'm Jamaican born, as I mentioned. It was a trip, dream vacation. I was a guy who was always working, not taking vacations. And I said, you know what, let's all go to Jamaica. We went with two other couples and said, let's splurge on doing the butler service thing and enjoy ourselves. And we were having great time for until like the fourth day. At night, after a great day about the resort, I started slurring my words. I was trying to arrange a day trip to the capital, Kingston. I wanted to see where I grew up, where I went to school, and the Bob Marley Museum and all that. Then when I started slurring my words, I'm like, something's wrong here. You know, I felt like I just came out of the dentist. My tongue felt sluggish. I'm like, this is not my thing. I'm not a big drinker or anything. So all that happened, and it was the beginning of life change.
Yeah, man. There was a whole ordeal because just getting to a hospital and
Yes,
stuff and all that. Huh.
absolutely.
So tell me about identity then, because this is a super thing, going back to identity again, because as an athlete, I know how close we are with our identity is in our ability to either lift things or to move fast, the brain to body connection to catch things, and
Yep.
how does this affect you, after knowing yourself, knowing your body, having such a strong command on your body.
Because I didn't lose feeling in my affected side. I wasn't paralyzed till like the third day in the hospital. So when the doctor tells you do something simple like wiggle your toes, and your mind is telling you they're moving, but you can see by the doctor's face they're not. Look, I tell you, that's when it gets real. I
Right.
just literally wept because I couldn't feel my arm. I'm left-handed, couldn't feel it. I couldn't move it, anything. So then when you talk about that command over your body that's lost, you start instantly thinking, what's the rest of my life going to be? What's it going to be worth?
Yeah. Hmm. And I'm a philosophy guy. I have kind of, ways to deal with stress and how do you deal with that, like despair and issues? Because I think people deal with that in all their different ways. And how do you come out so healthy? I feel like you have such a healthy expression that you've come to at this place.
You know what it is? I think my recovery has been based on my mindset, tapping into that athletic background, and just as a player, I played angry, channel
Me
my
too,
anger
man.
into recovery. But also, you don't have all that time on your hands lying motionless without being introspective. You just think about where you were, how you got here, and what you're going to try to do.
Yeah.
Seeing people around me who are affected and hit much harder than me, completely paralyzed and so forth. And some people couldn't even communicate. They suffer from things called like aphasia, where they can't work to find cognitive issues, all that. Thank God I was spared that.
Yeah.
In extreme cases, the people have even gone blind.
From stroke.
Yeah, yeah.
See, this is one of those conditions that your information. You talk about warning signs. We, again, like you said, we take for granted stuff. I talked about this in another
Third,
episode. I talk.
always remember be fast.
Say that again.
Always remember be fast.
Okay, what is that?
Hashtag be fast. B, the early warning signs for stroke are B for balance issues, or E for eyesight changes, blurred vision, or sudden rapid changes, or maybe you can't decipher things. Then F, potentially for facial droop or lack of symmetry on the face. A for arm numbness or tingling. S for slurred speech. Then, if you observe all that, T, time to get help. Time is of the essence. Because the faster you get treated, there's greater chance of that you won't suffer disabilities. Stroke is the number one cause of disabilities in the United States and the world.
I have a stroke in my family. I have an uncle who died from a stroke, and honestly, my mom spent my entire childhood. I remember my mom telling me that I was gonna kill her because of a stroke. That was her thing. She would always like tell me to stop.
Yeah.
You're gonna, and so I was always aware of stroke in that way. A little bit heightened, guilt trip that my mom put on me. But
Yeah, we as black men are the number one demographic in terms of being affected
right,
because our propensity to have high blood pressure and high stress levels and so forth.
yeah, yeah.
And we're not always diligent about taking care of our health.
Why aren't we? What's this about?
Because, we can go back to things like the Tuskegee experiments. We saw it during COVID, the mistrust of medical science,
Yep.
which has been weaponized against us previously. So there's, again, a lot of history there.
Exactly. One of the things I wanted to talk about, I have written here, perseverance, and I think this fits for a lot of reasons, right? Perseverance is typically a very masculine trait. We think about men persevering and getting through obstacles and such, and and toughness. And I consider myself a tough person. I know you do too. And I wonder about being married to Sheba, and this past couple of years has opened me up to changing my definition and thinking about like joy. Perseverance sort of leans into an awareness of difficulty, and then you have to be aware of it. You have to be diligent. You have to protect, and then when something comes, you got to figure it out. And
Absolutely.
joy is is a resigned sort of freedom from a lot of that, and men don't seem to get that space a lot. How do you feel?
One of the things I thought about during my recovery process and the dissatisfaction in the early stages about how slow it is, but I thought to myself, think about a woman who's carrying a baby to term. That's 9 months of her body changing drastically, and she's literally walking around with another human being inside of her.
Yeah.
And that's a 9 month process.
Yeah.
Could we do it? I know I couldn't.
I certainly couldn't. I certainly couldn't. That's not so. Yeah, I mean, so right there, you see a great example of women persevering all the time.
Exactly, and we just don't name it.
We just don't name it that. Exactly, exactly.
It's just a fact of life.
And it's crazy how we do that. In fact, I was watching this rapper, Toby Inigwe was doing a story on he's doing like a podcast, and he was talking about how his wife, they keep cranking out babies. I don't know how many babies they're working on, but he's trying to build a team, and she had to kind of tell him, no, I need to stop. My body needs to rest. He was like, all right, we're gonna take a rest, but then we're gonna get right back at it. And it blew my mind a little bit. You know what I mean? Like the way that kind of that kind of analysis of it.
I know. Like, my sister has 4 kids. That was her number all along. She had that number in her head. I used to refer to her. There was a time we worked together at Stony. I used to call her PP, perpetually pregnant.
Perpetually pregnant. That's wild. I couldn't do it. No, ma'am.
Yeah,
no,
she wanted them to be in close proximity in age.
That's and all that. Then she made it happen. Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her. So actually, I like that you actually, when I asked the perseverance question, you gave me an example of female perseverance, and I love that. But could you give me an example, or could you tell me about male joy as, like, the absence of male joy or the need for it? What do you think about that?
We can look at things. They made a lot of joy zero-sum games. We're constantly told in the sports world that the only unfettered joy you can have is being a winner, winning championships.
Right.
Think about the joy you felt just taking the field, just being able to play.
Hell yeah,
you may not have won championships, just running out of the tunnel with your teammates.
Huge.
Hear the crowd.
Incredible.
Just seeing all that. Man, those are the glory days.
Those were fantastic, man. And I knew it. Every step of that time there, I said, I've got 4 years, man, and this is going to be a wrap after that,
Yep. For me, I experienced joy in so many different ways. As a sports talk show host, chopping it up with interesting guests, and then as a DJ playing for crowds that are digging the vibe I'm trying to send them.
I love it, man.
Yep.
I love it. So you got to create your joy. You got to step into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about that? So powerful creation, creating spaces for yourself. What is your I know you post about Christianity occasionally.
Occasionally. But I'm not a diligent Christian, I believe, but I would classify myself as more spiritual than anything. I believe in God and Almighty, and we have a tendency to need to name him and quantify him or her and quantify what that Almighty is. But I think it's just there for the guiding overall principles of life.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, who's going to win the NBA Finals?
Look, I tell you what, I'm a frustrated Sixer fan who's been trusting the process since 1984, brother.
Embiid.
The struggle is real. Look, I started off as a Sixer fan because of Dr. J. I've been through Clarence Weatherspoon, Charles Barkley, Allen Iverson. Now I'm up to past Ben Simmons. Now I'm up here with Embiid.
You got Embiid,
who's always questionable come playoff time.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at my man Joker, who's always available and may not be the most graceful or whatever,
He's a
He's out
beast,
there
though.
balling, putting up numbers.
Yep.
He's this generation's Larry Bird, in my opinion. Not overly athletic,
Right.
but
Right.
very skilled, great understanding of the game,
Great understanding game, and he's
and gets overlooked a lot.
and changes it from his position. I mean, what a
Absolutely.
weird
And very
thing.
unselfish
Yeah.
and low maintenance.
You mentioned a bunch of players, so who's the GOAT, man? Just to throw that in.
I'm going to be different and controversial. When I
Go
come
for
to
it.
GOATs, I think Will Chamberlain's the GOAT.
Well, that makes sense, That makes sense.
When you're up there shattering records and doing things that have never been done before as an individual within the team concepts, and you win your chip, look, even a guy who won 13 rings like Bill Russell, he
Right.
himself said Will Chamberlain was the best. When
Nope.
people try to twist the narrative and say Will was out there competing against guys much smaller and all that, go look at his biggest number games. They came against Bill Russell himself. The 55 rebound game came about against Bill Russell. I always loved Bill Russell's sense of humor, being self-deprecating. I remember hearing him one time in an interview talking about that game. He said, what, with the 55 rebounds, I was there. I saw most of them.
Yo, if
And he
Bill,
had this great signature laugh.
yeah, if Bill Russell gives you the GOAT title, that's legit, man. That's
Exactly.
I mean,
13 rings. Go look up this Sports Illustrated cover with him cupping his hands together and all the hardware in there.
that's crazy.
And by
Man.
the way, 2 national championships with University of San Francisco,
Oh,
which
wow.
is not exactly a basketball power.
Wow,
Nobody knows about the Dons.
that's beast, man. I didn't know
Yep.
that either. So with your DJing though, let me talk about your DJing for a second. Music and creativity, I guess, because I started to get into music a little bit, and I'm enjoying myself. Like, what's your genre, man? What's your like?
Well, first and foremost, me have to take it back to the roots, Me have to go straight dancehall restaurant.
There we go.
Reggae.
Dancehall.
And yes, big up. Bless up.
Yes. Bless.
Then,
Beep, 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 beep. Okay.
yes, fire for that. Then I'm a 90s guy, so 90s hip hop. I'm in that, the golden
that.
era of hip hop, 80s to 90s. For me, the GOAT there is Rakim. He
Rakim.
changed the game forever.
Right,
Nobody flowed like that before,
Yep.
and nobody's flowed like that since. I got to be honest, in this current generation of what we lovingly call mumble rap, if you got Lil in front of your name or duh, I can't mess with you.
Man, I tell you what, it's funny how the music
Now there are
industry.
guys out there with good messages, but the music industry has changed hip
That's
hop,
it.
not necessarily for the better.
No, not necessarily. Definitely, it's it's just completely. It's an industry, and that's what I'm realizing. Especially as I come from my experience from CNN, and I'm realizing how, journalism is one thing, right? And then you add
Yeah.
this commerce component, and they whittle and they refine and they remove
Yes.
everything that isn't profitable, and and now you have this thing, this fucked up nonsense thing, and
Yep. So I say to you about hip hop, think about the messaging of guys like Rakim, then KRS-One, and so many others who are educating, talking about Black history and so forth. Uplift. Guys like X-Clan, all that.
yeah.
But it's now become about units sold.
Yes, 100%. And they've chosen the kinds of artists who would allow that to be, and who would buy into that, and who would sell
And
something entirely different, and in fact, it's not just like, not only did it push us away from self-love and self-knowledge. Oh, Curt, did I lose you? I think I did. Let's see. Curt will be right back, y'all. Curt will be right back. And in fact, I'm going to be right back. See you soon, folks. Don't leave. Hey, Curt, can you hear me? Oh man, I can't hear you anymore. Cool. But you are not coming through any longer. No sweat, man. No sweat, no sweat. Yeah, I can't hear what you're saying, but I do see you're talking, so I don't know what to do here. It's okay. Let me think. Let's see if we can kind of work this out for a couple of minutes, and if not, then I can. We had such a great show, so I think we got a lot in. Frankly, you know what I mean. So right now, what this is not. We're not live right now, by the way. I put us on a break thing, so it's me and you. And what I could do is just kind of go back and say, we had some technical difficulties, but this was a great show, and have a good night, kind of thing. Does that work for you, man? I wish I could give you a full, and you could say a final word, but if that's okay, we could do it that way. And I'd love to have you back another time, my dude. Man, I really think we did a lot, and I love you so much for this, bro. And I'll see you soon, Curt. All right, peace.
Your sound's off.
What's up, everybody? How we doing? Is there feedback? So Sheba said there's some feedback. We got to figure this sound out thing, man. But hopefully you can hear me. Something happened with Curt's camera and his audio. We can't get him back. It's okay though. What we're gonna do is we're gonna end the podcast here. We're gonna end the episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Curt Hylton's an awesome dude, and he dropped some gems for us in that one. And we'll try to have him back soon, yo. So that's the episode. I'm gonna leave you, and I'm gonna hope you have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you on Friday for Black Bunny Hole, y'all. All right, take care, yo. Honesty and empathy. Peace. Is this incredible story a journey that's unfolding for us, from us? The life experience isn't just out there, it's also inside of us. It's our perception, our beliefs, our language, our traumas, our prior assumptions. Sometimes you need the benefit of time and some distance. You can look back and see, everything happened just as it needed to for this moment. Listen, I've been grown, my step pops move just like the wind blows. I chin stroke and reminisce on days when life was simple. Me, always had a pen stroke, fresh like Mentos. At 9 I wrote complex lines and colored pencils. By 16 the game was mental. The stuff I've been through, I had to learn to break shit down and reassemble. The cops judge me by my skin tone, me and my kinfolk, we been broke. These checks too slow, file the rent broke. Look, sidewalk chalk, I trace it in black. Shit strange how the brain can relapse to anger in fact. But hey, everybody chasing a stack, sitting at the table telling fables with a plate full of scraps. You had the mic, now we taking it back. Mirror to the face, facing it flat. Can you face it or not? They stole your whole shit straight from the apps. Don't at me, I'm just stating the facts. And all these words I spit, I'm a wordsmith. Perfect verses hurt way worse than curse words did. Get the hearses, how they gon' hang truth from purse strings? The nerve of these clowns and cursed earthlings. Check the grace they got for racists and bots. Content clowns chasing the guap. They daily research on the wire. Be copy and pasted a lot. Wait, my basic cable is basically ops. Breaking news. I try to count my blessings, though these people are vexing. Notice pain is a testing. Choose to press in, I'm etched in. Stuff of exploded stars caressing. Who got bars like Billy.Buntin? Answer the question. But let me say less, I don't flaunt predator apex. I make moves, y'all stunt for placements. Life stage is amazing by God's graces. Not a thug, but definitely goon adjacent. I foul flagrant, chef it up with no apron. But y'all ego talk too much and not patient. Look, not for Nathan, stay true and stop faking. That's why the broads turned off and not naked. I'm complex, never complacent. My steps constant, accomplishments and roads taken. So I'ma live this one life my way. Big moves, my head might skyscrape. Migraine, I stack bread like sideways. They pay a lot to talk in sly ways. Now I keep the fam fed off rhyme play. Who the type to set it off in 9 ways? Billy, the most creative MC in this time space. Look, who the type to set it off in 9 ways? Billy, the most creative MC in this time space. Who the type to set it off in 9 ways? Billy, the most creative MC in this time space.